Welcome to Elite Force Staffing's podcast, where we talk shop about the skilled trades, world of construction staffing, and sometimes absolutely nothing of importance. Here today we have our host, Brent Waters, speaking about the importance of details and what questions should be asked when discussing a project, whether you're seeking tradesmen for a job or providing the staffing for the job site. The devil's in the details, folks. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today, we're going to be talking about another one of the lessons that I've learned, up until this point with my long life in the skilled trades construction staffing industry. So I want to call this one, we can call it details. We could call it the devil's in the details. We could call it questions, not enough questions, ask the right questions, too many questions. And basically, I've heard, I can't tell you how many times in this business I've walked into an office and I've heard someone pick up the phone and say, "Oh, okay, you need a carpenter. Okay, when do you need this person? Okay, all right, sounds good, thank you." And then they walk into a recruiter's office and say, "Hey, we need a carpenter for Monday." Okay, that sounds great. Any other information? Nope, just here's the address. We need a carpenter. And I find that to be hilarious. I mean, look, that's where I started doing this. I didn't know any better. But this whole thing, I mean, that's primarily in construction staffing or any staffing. I mean, that's the biggest thing we do, right? Is people email or they text or they call and they say, "Hey, I need this here. I need this many here," and then we start the process of getting that person or persons to there. And one thing I've learned through the years is there are an incredible number of ways that it can go bad. It can go bad getting them there. It can go bad getting them there and them not having the right skills. And then there's a bunch of other smaller things that might not seem like they're very important that can go bad. And so, one of the things I've always done is asked a ton of questions. And I've even had customers say to me, "Wow, you're asking a lot of questions." And I explain to them that, listen, I mean, I'm setting expectations here for you and for our employee or employees because, we're trying to hit the home run ball as often as we possibly can here. Whether it's one person, 5 people, 30 people, 40 people, whatever number of people the customer needs, we want to put a round peg in a round hole as often as we possibly can. And, to me, the way you do that is by sort of sorting out all of these different variables associated with the job and, making sure that we're covering everything. And depending on the customer, if they're a big staffing user or not, this can be more of an education process. I've been amazed at how many times I've uncovered something during one of those conversations that the client hadn't really even thought of. And the client comes back and says, "Hey, that's a good point. Wow, it's a good thing we talked about that. Come to think of it, we probably aren't ready for these people yet." Or maybe an administrative person calls in from an office and says, "Hey, I talked to the owner of the company. He's looking for 5 helpers." And maybe the person actually wants journeymen. That has happened. And you get guys out or gals out on a project and somebody gives them the prints and says, "Hey, get to it." And they kind of take a look and say, "Hey, I'm a helper. I can't read these prints." Right. So once again, we're setting expectations, and we're trying to make sure that we've got a good fit for our customer and for the worker or the workers, depending on how many there are. Once again, there's a million places where this can go wrong. It's all about knowing the right questions to ask. And so, I was going to run through some of these different things. The first and foremost to me is the duties. We go back to the way this whole thing started about, "Hey, I need a carpenter," right? Okay. What is this person going to be doing every day? Is this commercial work? Is it residential? Is it industrial? you really got to dig in and find out. It's not just carpentry work. Is it rough work? Is it form work? Is it trim work? Are they doing firewall blocking? Is it punch list work? Is it metal stud framing? Is it drywall? Depending on what state where you're working. I mean, some people might consider a carpenter to be a drywall person. What's this person going to be doing the majority of the day? This is important. We got to make sure that we got the qualified person out there. Tools. This is another one that is huge. If it's a new customer that hasn't done a lot of work with skilled trade staffing, what kind of tools does this person need? If it's bigger type tools that our people typically aren't going to have, like maybe a ladder or a miter box or some nailers and a compressor, are those things going to be on the job? What kind of tools are necessary? Does our worker have those tools? Is there power on the job so that they can charge batteries? Is there a place for that? Is there a job box where they can keep their tools? If they're parking blocks away from where the job is, do they have to lug their tools every day to the job? So these are, what we don't want, obviously, is our people to get out there on the job and have to get turned away. And I will tell you, from doing this for a long time, there is nothing worse than getting your people out on the job and for some reason having to turn around and say, hey guys, y'all just gonna have to head home, and we'll try to restart this tomorrow. It's a bad feeling to the customer, and it's a bad feeling to our worker, who was just wanting to go out and work and get paid. So this is what basically this whole discussion is about, is trying to avoid, that happening. And that's the initial thing. The second part is looking for the long-term fit. We also don't want it to be 2 or 3 days, and one of these variables that we are discussing that hasn't been addressed pops up, and, for some reason it ends up not being a good fit for the client or for the worker, right? So another one, PPE. It's another thing, and this is where guys get turned or gals get turned away. If it's a subcontractor that you're working with, does the general contractor have some PPE requirement above and beyond what is typical? Do the people need, high vis vests? Do they have to have long sleeves? Obviously, if it's commercial, industrial, they're going to have a hard hat. They're going to have safety glasses. They're going to have steel-toed boots. Are there some kind of like tear-resistant gloves that they have to have? Side shields for their glasses. So I mean, once again, it seems like a small thing, but I can't tell you how many times I've walked out to a job and, guys get turned away. I had a master electrician one time that had been doing a bunch of residential projects and showed up to a job, didn't meet the guy because he was a total stud and we didn't think that we needed to be out there. Shows up to the job with no hard hat. Client says, go home, I can't use you. This guy could have run the job, So, these are the details. This is what it's all about. We got to find out, make sure that everybody understands what they need to have, and make sure that they've got it when they get out there. If we're not going to be meeting them. Parking, the address, now, Google Maps. I mean, when I started in this industry, people didn't have cell phones. So, it was basically, meet me at a 7-Eleven here and follow me to the job site. If you get lost, pull over and, call me from a payphone, but just don't go home. That's the way it used to be. Now, I mean, we can basically send all the information to the people that they need. But, some of these addresses are new addresses for massive projects. Does the Google Map address take you to the job, or does it take you to a big field, right? So, is it tricky to find the place? If it is, is there a better way to go about getting the people there, right? Parking. Once again, we talk about having a lot of tools. Is there parking available on the job site? Is the parking, is it paid parking? If it is paid, who's covering that? These are the kind of things that creep up on you at 6:30 in the morning when you're out on a job site. So that's very, very important. The hours of the job. Are we working 7 to 3:30? Are we working 4 10s? Are we doing 4 10s and an 8? Are we working weekends? I've had projects that start on a Thursday, and we send the people out Thursday and Friday, and the customer says, "Hey, you're coming back tomorrow and Sunday, right?" Oh, I've got to watch the kids over the weekend. I didn't know I needed to work Saturday and Sunday. Oh, well, I really need you out here, and if you can't be out here those days, I really can't use you. That stuff happens, right? So we got to make sure that, once again, we're setting expectations, that everybody knows what's expected of them, right? And then we get the right people out on the jobs. Another thing with depending on the project, is there, if it's a large general contractor, is there an orientation, a safety orientation? What days of the week do they have the safety orientation? You get out there on a Wednesday with 10 electricians and find out that the next safety orientation is Monday, and they can't start on the job. That's something that maybe the subcontractor might not even think about. So once again, depending on some of this stuff that we're talking about, there is, an education thing here. There's, we're educating the customer. Background check and drug test. We've had guys go out to a job site and someone says, "Hey, I don't have your drug test form. Did you do a drug test?" "No, I haven't done a drug test." "All right, well, head home and, get your drug test and come back tomorrow." So this is another thing that we don't want that to happen. We don't want these people to get sent home. So there's a lot more than this. I mean, a lot of it, going back to duties, is our person working alone? Is our person running other folks? Are they in a supervisory role? How many people are they overseeing? Who is our person reporting to? These are things. Hey, I'm out here at 7 a.m. The person I'm reporting to is going to be here not going to be here till 10. Well, what do I do till 10? Sorry, right? So once again, this is more of the consultative part of what we do. This is my thing. If you're going to pick up the phone and say, "You need a plumber?" Okay, cool, I'll send you a plumber. You really probably don't care much about your customer. And you probably really don't care much about the plumber. Because if you send a plumber out to the job who's really good at doing lavs and things like that, and it's some big municipal project, or it's like boiler chiller work or something that they don't do a lot of, that's not a good fit for them. And it's obviously not a good fit for the client either. So, asking questions, being thorough, that to me is the best thing you can do to defend against these things happening. And just so you know, you can ask all the questions in the world and you still might get the wrong fit. But, my thing has always been in this business from day one is it's not about getting people out there that can just contribute. My goal has always been to supply people that are as good or better than what our client the type of workers that they employ. And to do that, you got to ask a lot of questions, and you've got to try to find the right fit. And if you're going to try to mash a square peg in a round hole, you could even talk to the client and say, "Hey, listen, I know you're looking for an apprentice. I don't have an apprentice available, but I've got a journeyman. Can we make that work for your budget?" It doesn't have to be completely reactive. Hey, it sounds to me like maybe you could use a couple of helpers. All you're doing is blocking. I've got some really good carpenter helpers that I think could fit, and that might even save you some money. So there is, once again, that's the consultative part of what we do. So like I said, details. The devil's in the details. Don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. If you're a contractor that's listening to this, and you call someone and you tell them that you need 20 electricians and they say okay, I'd probably pick up the phone and call somebody else, because chances are your project's industrial and you're going to get a bunch of commercial guys that don't know anything about rigid pipe or cable tray. It's just not going to be a good fit for you. And we've got higher expectations than that. So that's kind of the way I look at this. Ask questions, Don't be afraid to maybe even annoy the customer, because in the end, you're going to get a much better fit. Everyone's going to be a lot happier, and there we go.